Hi, this is James Shippey, breaking news anchor for KOIN 6 in Portland, CW. Very excited for this KOIN conversation I have today. We've got Olivia Harms, that is, coming in from Canby, Oregon. You're an Oregon native. Performed on CBS's The Road for this current season. Just kind of doing your thing, making a national TV debut. How's it going this morning?
It's going great. Thanks so much for having me, James.
Yes, thanks for showing up and joining us, because it's really exciting. I've been doing some research on this show, and it's kind of a really cool concept. And anything co-produced by Taylor Sheridan with Yellowstone, I'm all in.
As they
absolutely.
Say, Dad Anything TV. That has that man, we are hooked. He knows what he's doing.
He sure does. Everything he's doing is turning to gold, pretty much. So, Olivia, just tell me a little bit about your background, because I was getting to know. I'm just going to say right off the bat, how does it feel to be an Oregon native and having like the whole state rooting for you?
Oh my gosh, I'm so honored. I was so proud to be not only their only Oregon contestant, but also their only Northwest contestant, and prove that country music is very strong, especially in our state of Oregon, but on the West Coast also. And I am a Canby girl, so I'm very close. This is where I was born and raised, on a place that's been in my family since 1872, so we have very deep roots in Canby, and that's my hometown. I'm so proud of that. I was proud to share that on the show. I grew up around music, and then ranching and cattle and farming and all that good stuff, and so I was so proud to be able to take a little piece of Canby, Oregon, to the big stage and to national television.
Yeah, so, tell me more a bit about, so this ranch you grew up on, it's been around for how many years again?
I guess 153, wow. If I do the math right.
That is something else. I was with my wife. We went to cut a Christmas. We're not from this part of the country. We met in L.A. She's from Brazil. I'm from Texas. But we always now, our big thing after moving here a few years ago is always going to cut our tree at a farm. And we were out kind of like in that farm area out near Hillsboro. And I was like, hey, beach or farm? Which one? And we asked our son, and he's like, he wants both.
Okay.
So how was it? Because you say you grew up out there. Can you kind of let listeners know or viewers know what inspired your music? I kind of know a bit about this. Your mom has a background in this. If you could tell folks about her and her inspiration for you growing up.
Yeah, well, I was literally born into music. My mom, who is here, she's the best support. I was on stage at 2 days old. That was literally my very first day. She was signed to Capitol Records, and she had a show at the Portland Speedway with Ricky Skaggs, Lori Morgan, Clint Black, and I was still hanging out. I hadn't arrived yet, and so she goes into the doctor and is like, look, I do not want to miss this show. This is kind of a big one, so Joni Harms wants to be there. And luckily, he must have been a country music fan, and he says, okay, Joni, why don't you come in on June 13th, and if Olivia hasn't arrived yet, we'll make sure that she does. And so that's what they took care of it, and then later on the 16th, 2 days later, she comes out on stage and says, look what I did the other day, folks. And I really did just hit the ground running with her, and had a great teacher, a great inspiration for music. And right off the bat, as young as I can remember, I remember seeing her make a difference in people's lives, bring them joy through song, be like that comfort through a song when they're going through a hard time. And as some of my earliest memories are thinking, that's what I want to do with my life. The world is a hard enough place as it is, and if I can share a song or bring people a little bit of joy or happiness or comfort through music, then that's the life for me.
Now, see, that's awesome. And Olivia, so your mom, that's really an awesome thing. You were on stage 2 days old.
Yeah, right out of the chute.
Yeah, just right out the chute, right? It was like, it was meant for you. But, sometimes if a parent's really good at something, maybe they encourage their kids or not to get into it. How was that for you growing up and getting into music? Was it like, hey, follow mom's lead? Were you just like, were you really kind of a go-getter? Or once she found out that you had this passion for singing, how did she support that for you?
That's a question that I get a lot. And, I think that she was always supportive of whatever I wanted to do, whatever my little brother Luke wanted to do. But she definitely didn't hide anything from me about how difficult the music business is. It's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure. And I saw her go through a lot of, winds, high mountains, and then next thing you know, you're down and wondering what's going to happen next, dealing with a valley. And so she did say, if you want to do something else, please do. don't just do this because I did it. It's not for the faint of heart. You have to have really thick skin. You have to be a hard worker and be really stubborn to make it in the music business. And so I think that it was like, the support was there if that's what I chose to do, and I ended up choosing it. But I know in my heart that it was never like, okay, this is the family business. You're getting pushed into it. It wasn't a stage mom situation. It was just like, we're here to cheer you on if this is what you feel like God's put you on earth to do. So here I am, still doing it.
That's awesome. And yeah, I think that really helps having a parent that's like worked professionally in the field and can kind of be a guidance to you because, as kids enter, show business or other, these really kind of awesome feats of art, sports, it's kind of a minefield to navigate. So it's really good to have had, that kind of mentorship, as you would say.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, nobody else can totally grasp what it's like. When I had this opportunity to be on the road and be on this show that's going to be on national television, like what an opportunity. And I have played music full time for quite a few years now, and I'm lucky that I get a career in something that I love so much. But that was, a next big step. And so there's definitely some nerves once I got that call and found out I was going to be part of the top 12 that they chose to be a part of this experience. And so it was really neat to have her advice and just her insight. And then, she really did understand exactly what it was. She understood why I had nerves or what kind of nerves they were about going on stage. It doesn't mean that you're scared to go sing, because I've done that forever. She just understands the little micro differences in what I was going to be fixing to go do, because she's been there. She's literally lived it. And so to have that in my hip pocket and have somebody that I can call, not to say that my husband or some of my friends don't get it, because they definitely do support me and sympathize with me when I'm going through something that's a little bit like nerve-wracking, but she fully gets it, which is really nice to have someone you can call and she's like, I get it, and here's what what you should do.
Definitely. And now that you bringing up the road, because we're going to be focusing a lot on that, because this is a big national show. So you get the call to be in the top 12. Do you know what the numbers are to have dwindled it down to that much? You can give some folks some background. Like, they see the 12 people in there. That's kind of a finished product. But, these they're looking all over the country, sometimes out of the country perhaps, looking all over the country for that next big act, that country music act. Do you know what it was dwindled down from? Can you give folks a little background how that is for you, even as a I would say a seasoned performer? You are someone has been on stage since 2
days old.
Yeah, 2 days old basically.
Yeah, so I know that the experience for me was absolutely crazy. It was about a year ago in December. I was sitting on my couch and I was doing the not so fun part of my job, where you're doing emails and following up and trying to book gigs and make sure that the logistics of a tour are going to work out, all those fun things. And I got a call, and I didn't really know the number, but I answered anyways. And on the other end of the line, this guy says, is this Olivia Harms? And I said, yes, sir, it is. And he says, this is Taylor Sheridan. And I was like, no, one of my friends has got to be like playing with me. There's no way that he's calling me. And I don't know if that's the case for everybody. I had a connection with him in Fort Worth, Texas, because I did live in Fort Worth, Texas for a while. I played a lot of music down in Texas. And I got to play a small venue where he was there, and I made a little connection, but I didn't really think that would ever turn into anything. But next thing I know, he's calling me and saying, I'm putting together this show with Blake Shelton, and I was wondering if you'd be interested. And I absolutely said, yes, sir, yes, please. Like, I would love to be considered. And I went through the interview process. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that I had to learn about that go into making sure that you can be a contestant on reality TV or a competition show. But then in February, the beginning of February, they flew quite a number of us down to Burbank, and we did executive callbacks, and that was great. Blake Shelton is just sitting right here, and you walk into a room, and there's Taylor and all the CBS executives, and you're just pinching yourself and trying to get yourself not to be too jittery while you do a little audition for them. But what a great experience. Everybody that I met down at auditions were extremely talented. I remember before I left even knowing and recognizing some of the names that was on the callback sheet, and I remember telling my mom and my husband, like, I know some of these people. They are so talented. I'm just in awe that I'm going to be able to meet them and share a room with them. And I just started saying my prayers and crossing my fingers that a little organ gal could maybe make the show. And I guess I got really lucky. So, what a great experience. And to be on there with 11 other incredibly talented artists, it was a real, real blessing.
I mean, talk about just being shot right out of a cannon. First of all, you're down in Fort. Shout out to Texas. I'm a
Shout out to
Texas guy.
Texas.
You know, it's a great. You know, you won't meet a Texan that isn't proud to be from there. Let's just be clear on that. But,
Oregonians are
yeah,
proud
Oregonians
too.
too. I will say that as well, and I totally get it. I mean, to get the call directly from Taylor Sheridan, that's like a pretty big deal. I can
Yeah.
only imagine what that is like, and then obviously you're in the midst of Blake Shelton, Keith Urban, Gretchen Wilson, and then you see these other artists that you recognize when you're in a situation like that, because perhaps as you mentioned, the nerves can get to you sometimes, or you're like, oh wow, like I'm amongst all this greatness, and sometimes it makes people step their game up. I mean, is that what it did for you when you were there and it was time to try and get in there and get that spot locked in, that top 12 spot?
Definitely. I kind of resorted back to like, this is what I have been working my whole life for, this big opportunity. Everybody that's a musician or even like an entrepreneur, at a certain point, you have to spend so much time behind the scenes just working for that one big break that you hope you're going to have. And I was like, this is mine. I've got to dig deep and give it everything that I have, because I don't want to look back and have any regrets. And I'm so thankful I don't. I really gave the whole opportunity and the whole journey, like everything I had. And I'm so proud of, being from Oregon on the show and the music that I was able to play and share with the world. So it was a great experience. But you're so right to be able to say like, oh yeah, Olivia Harms is on the show with Keith Urban and Blake Shelton and Taylor Sheridan. That's still a sentence that I am not used to saying. So bizarre.
I can imagine, and we're about to go to break in a minute or two, but how did it feel like thinking like, hey, like friends, family, people back from Oregon, they're going to see me on TV? Like what was your thought? What was the thoughts in your head when you were thinking about that? National TV.
Yeah, immediately I just wanted to make my home state proud, because I'm so proud to be an Oregon girl. Yes, I have lived a lot of other places. I lived in Nashville for a while. I lived in Texas, and now I'm married and my husband has a ranch in Northern California. But Oregon is truly like my home and where I'm so proud to be from. And so it was just like such a just like, you're in shock for a while, you're pinching yourself, but then you're counting your blessings and saying, wow, how lucky am I that this has happened to me? Because I know there's a lot of other worthy musicians out in the world, and the fact that they chose me makes me really want to make them proud and make them feel like they made the right choice by getting the Oregon girl on the show.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and like I said, I'm sure you make a lot of folks proud. Like not only representing Oregon, but as you say, the Pacific Northwest. I mean, that encompasses a few states here. So we're going to take a small break, Olivia, and on the other side of it, we're going to talk about your experience on the road and the touring and performing in front of an audience and kind of that competitive thing happening there, and then just some other questions, and we'll speak more about that experience on the other side of the break.
Sounds great.
With the road, they've got you guys going to different locations around the country, performing in front of a live audience. I mean, what kind of juice does that give you as a performer? And I'm assuming it's got to be a completely different kind of experience going around the country, the road, basically what a lot of performers do anyway, like kind of being in these new venues and having a new audience every night. Like, how was that for you?
I enjoyed it so much, and really that's what hooked me into the show. Is number one, we got to play our original music, which is the first show that I know of that's a music competition show that allows the musicians and songwriters to write their original music, because I think that gives fans the most authentic look at who you are as an artist. You can cover a song and you can do a darn good job covering it, but it's still not gonna be like putting your heart into a song like your original music is. And so that really hooked me into the show, to be able to play my original songs, let fans get to know me. And then on top of that, they really did show folks what it's like to be a touring musician and go from stop to stop, winning over fans. This was structured around winning over Keith Urban's fans, which was maybe a little bit of a challenge for me because I play very traditional country music, and he's of course this like electrifying performer. So maybe not the best match for me, but still just like that's how it should be. You're winning over one fan at a time, and then to show folks what it's like to go on the road. It's not just getting up there and playing a show, as you saw in the clip in Dallas. There's rehearsals, there's sound checks, there's load-ins, there's spending a night every other night in a new hotel and being away from home and piling on a bus and going miles down the road. It's a great life, but it is grueling. It is a lot more difficult than maybe you just see on a polished stage where folks are just playing the song and then they go on and you maybe wonder what in the world they do the rest of the time. And this really gave people a look at the behind the scenes of what musicians do when we're trying to get from one show to the next.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And you're doing this show, you're filming it before it airs, so you're also having to kind of keep a tight lid on certain aspects of that experience, I'm assuming, with friends and family. Yeah, look, talk a little bit about that whole tour bus experience. And also, look, you guys are in competition. We get it. You're all trying to live out your dreams. But I assume, like, when you're in the arena with people like that, you end up forming some bonds. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. There was no bad eggs in our group. Everyone was so nice, and honestly, like it was really hard. It was one of those times where you're like, I know this is a competition. You have that in the back of your head, but everyone was so kind and wonderful and sincerely talented that you wanted to be cheering them on and wanting the best for them as well. We all have something different about us. We were all made differently. And so at the end of the day, you got to just be exactly who you are. And that's what makes you an artist. And so really, even though it's a competition show, I still think there's room at the table for every artist that's, doing their own unique, authentic thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And, as they say in television, the camera doesn't lie and all these kind of stuff. So, like, at the end of the day, no matter what, just be yourself. And that's kind of, you let the chips fall where they may. And it's funny you talk about it because people that may not be familiar with, like, country music. I grew up in Texas. I was around it, but I'm not like I didn't grow up, with country music in the house. But I know it's different in different parts of the country. Did you get a chance to kind of see styles? And obviously, as you mentioned, people's upbringing's very different. Like, you grew up on a ranch, but I'm assuming everyone that does country doesn't grow up on a ranch. Some people might grow up in the city, right? But they just have an affinity for the music and the genre.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, you don't have to listen to cowboy music or come from a ranch to be a country musician or even just be a country music fan. It's kind of all over the spectrum, and the show did a really fantastic job of getting a little bit of each niche genre from country music. You had myself, and I play very traditional country, even maybe country western music, some might call it. I just like to title it like honky tonk rodeo music, but whatever you want to call what I do, I'm in my own little corner over here. There's definitely like Forrest, who is like a John Prine, plays very Americana folk country music. You have Channing and Cassidy that are very soulful, like Southern rock influenced country music. So there's really a broad spectrum, and they did a great job of getting a little bit of everything, also getting a little bit of all forms of life. We've all been grinding down this road for a really long time, and I appreciated the fact, not to knock any like TikTok musicians because they're worthy of their craft as well, but I was really grateful that they chose folks that have been doing this long term for a long time. They know the rules of the road. They've been working at it. And they're very worthy of having a chance on the competition of the road.
Any of these things that happen, whether we go as far as we want or not, they're always kind of building blocks. They can be learning lessons, maybe not at that moment, but down the line and, maybe leading to another opportunity. But what was kind of going through your head at that night in Dallas and then obviously like within the next few days or whatever?
Yeah, you know what? To be completely honest, I saw it coming down the pipe. As I mentioned earlier, as soon as I found out that Keith Urban was our headliner, I applaud him. I'm a fan of his music. He's an incredible entertainer. But I am also not a dummy, and I know that I would never realistically be paired if we were playing at the Moda Center. I would never be paired to be his opener. I'm just a very different style than he is, and if it's his fans that are voting on who their favorite opener is, that does make my job a little more difficult. That doesn't take away from what I do or mean that I should change who I am or the music that I make. I might have had a better shot if it was a more traditional country artist, So when I went home, of course I was bummed. Of course I was disappointed. If you're a dream chaser, you want to stay and continue to chase it as long as you can. But it doesn't mean that just because the time for me on the show was over that I was just going to throw in the towel and say, that's it, I'm not playing music anymore. I just took it as like such a blessing and such a great opportunity that I was able to get a little version of my music that I'm so proud to make out there for the world, hopefully bring some smiles to people's faces. I cast a net and saw what kind of, fans I was going to be able to reel in from this opportunity, and then went home and got some fresh air, spent some time with my husband and my dogs and the horses and the cows, and, it really wasn't too bad after being on the road and this whole experience, building up from that first call to then like the executive callbacks and then going into filming. It had been a pretty crazy process, and so even though I was bummed that it came to an end a little sooner than I had hoped, I was still very grateful, and I thought I'm ready for a little break anyway, so it wasn't so bad.
I hear you. And look, I mean, even just to make it that top 12, and, now if you've seen like these kind of competition shows over the years, sometimes these people that don't even, a lot of people go on to have successful careers in music or entertainment in general. So it's always fascinating, as you say, now that people around the country know you and want to follow your journey. I think that's kind of the opportunity there, because other than that, you don't have control over anything else. You just kind of do your thing, right?
Oh, absolutely. I could not have paid to have this kind of exposure. And if you would have sat Olivia Harms down a year ago and said, hey, you're only going to make it this far, but you are going to be on a TV show, I still would have keeled over backwards and been like, no way, that's crazy. So, you just take it and be thankful for what you have. And I think, at the end of the day, I was still on a TV show with Blake Shelton, Keith Urban, produced by Taylor Sheridan, and that is wild. That's so wild.
That's the mic drop right there, actually. So definitely. Now, quickly, before we get out here, because you did bring your guitar here, obviously you're not going to use it. I don't know if folks can see it in there, but let me know a bit about it, because on your guitar case, I see a whole bunch of stickers on there. I don't know, is this like a typical musician thing? Are you any location you go to tour, do you kind of grab a little something to put on there to remember that moment? Take non-musicians into the mind of a musician when they're lugging around their equipment, pretty much.
Well, that guitar has been a lot of places. I'll start out by saying I actually I didn't steal it, but I went down and I borrowed it from my mom's office. I had a little baby Taylor to start out with, and then I had a hard time figuring out the calluses, and so then it stayed in the closet for a while. And one day I decided I wanted to start playing guitar again, but I was way too stubborn to ask for help and just go be like, hey, Mom, I know you're really good at this, but can you help me? No, that's way too easy. So I had to go sneak downstairs, find a guitar that she just brought home because I knew it would be in tune, and I didn't know how to tune a guitar yet. And so I snuck it upstairs and started working, and she's just like, you can just keep it, you worked on it and you got it figured out. And so it's been with me so many places, and all those stickers, they do have stories. Once in a while I'll get stopped in an airport, and it's so funny. People say, where do you get those stickers from? And I'm so tempted to be like, oh, I just buy them online and slap them on there and trying to look like I'm somebody, like I maybe have actually, but people just give me stickers. And I've had random folks stop me in airports or other places and say, oh my gosh, can we give you a sticker? And so it's just turned into this, you got to cover it with something. So you might as well have some stickers, and maybe it's holding the case together at this point. I don't even know. But it definitely has lots of stories to share of all the states it's been, all the stages it's been on. And I'm lucky to have such a trusty little guitar with me. I've even picked a little hole under the pick guard from playing it so much. So I guess I'm trying to turn it into Willie Nelson's guitar guitar at this
Hey,
point.
you know what? That's how you do it. And like I said, your instrument has a story, and the fact that people are stopping you. So I knew I had the right mindset to ask you that question. And just quickly, because you said, you didn't ask your, and that's kind of typical, like when someone's following their parents, like, okay, I got this. I can do this on my own. How was it kind of learning how to do guitar? Because, you think of like novices, like the options are you go to pay for lessons somewhere, or, you can, YouTube now. I mean, you can kind of learn everything online,
Yeah.
or just kind of jamming out with friends. Like what was like the best way for you to kind of get things going and play that guitar as well as singing?
Well, I guess I'm a '90s baby, so I didn't get the chance to like have it as easy as we do now. Even though we're not that old, but still, it wasn't as easy as it is today. And I think I had just had a chart of like your basic chords, and I had kept it in my little baby Taylor guitar case. And when I decided to go sneak downstairs and grab this guitar, I had my little chart out, and I just sat up there trying to figure it out, working away, and eventually I did end up asking my mom for some pointers and some help, but we're stubborn and we like to do things our own way and know that you can do it on your own. I think that's the biggest thing for me is that I knew how talented she was and I know how capable she is of helping me and teaching me, but at the same time, I really wanted to prove to myself that like I don't need my mom to do this. I can do it on my own, and I can blaze my own trail, and so great. My very first song I wrote on this guitar, and I remember I wrote about our hometown of Canby, and a few folks might have heard it if you like have been following along on my music for a long time, but I wrote it after school for a few days in a row, finally got her wrapped up, and I went downstairs and I said, Mom, do you have a minute? I'd love to play this new song I wrote for you. And she was so sweet to sit there and listen, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to get done, and she's probably going to have maybe like some pointers or some advice or something, and instead she just looked at me and she's like, I wish I would have thought of that idea first, because the basis of the song is you can be whatever you want to be and can be, So such a great hook.
That's awesome. I could just imagine, look, I got a 4-year-old, so I can only imagine how proud your mom was of you, doing that kind of stuff and coming down and showing love to the hometown. As we wrap up, where can people find info about you? What do you have coming up next? Now that the episodes are out and you can kind of, obviously the whole world knows, like you don't have to keep anything under wraps. What's next for you? What do you got going on right now?
Lots of exciting things are happening. If you ever want to see where I'm playing or like follow along on all my adventures, social media and the website is always the easiest way to do that. I'm not too tricky. It's just oliviaharms.com or Olivia Harms Music. But 2026 is looking really exciting. Later this week, as soon as I'm done here, I'm going down to Northern California, drive the I-5 down there, and then I go to Las Vegas, Nevada for the National Finals Rodeo that starts on Thursday. And so I play some music down there with my band, the Road Runners. We play all weekend long, and then we gear up for the holidays, have a little bit of downtime, and then we hit 2026, on the ground running. We got lots of gigs, lots of new shows, lots of tours, hopefully getting in the studio to release some more music. So it's going to be a great year, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Nice. Yeah, Vegas. Sounds fun. So
Viva Las Vegas. Ready or not, here we go.
Right, exactly. A performer city for sure. So, well, that's great to hear about everything that's coming up in 2026. Of course, joining me, Olivia Harms. This is James Shippey, breaking news anchor with KOIN 6, Portland CW. It's been a pleasure having you, and yeah, wish you best of luck. Break a leg, all that good stuff, as they say to performers. And yeah, it's really exciting to have you here, one of Oregon's own from Canby. So thanks again. Happy holidays as well.
Thank you, James.